everyone, I'm Elena GEORGIU. Welcome to my channel. This is Trauma Recovery Series and the second episode. So we will be discussing trigger events today. But first, I want to welcome my guest. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, Elena. How are you?
I'm fine. Welcome, Patricia.
Hi, Elena. Good day.
Good day to you. Thank you for being here. So we're all here to share trigger events. And while triggered, people may panic, feel overwhelmed, cry, act out, withdraw, or react defensively. So you can be triggered by your friend, family, neighbors, colleagues, loved ones, or unknown people. Our triggers are rooted in our past traumatic experiences. And on the other hand, triggers are blessings to help us reconnect, become whole, and change our perception of who we think we are. And in reality, we are evolving into something more significant than we ever realized. So I will start by sharing a trigger event that happened to me. It's a recent event. So I was in a gathering and I said something and someone made fun of me and shared a sarcastic joke about me that wasn't true for me. At that time, it felt like judgment, and it reminded me of my shame that I wasn't understood or respected, and reminded me also of my childhood trauma as an adult today that I thought I dealt with because I faced abuse, neglect, abandonment, stabbing, pointing fingers, talking behind my back, spreading rumors that weren't true for me, hatred, envy, sarcasm, making fun of me, holding their breath for me to fail in life. So that's what I faced in my childhood. So I left right away without saying anything. And after a while, someone came to my house right after the event to give me all kinds of excuses that it was just a joke and nothing more. And this person was crying and was angry with me because I was upset with them. So this person was my mirror to help me remember and connect me with that past event that traumatized me. So what I did, I told her that it was all good because I didn't want to continue the discussion. And this person represented a past trauma of mine. And this past trauma was revisiting me in my home to see my new reactions and to help me remember what happened so I could face it and heal it. So there was no point in continuing. I said goodbye and she left. And after this woman left, I realized I no longer tolerate people making fun of me, gossiping, talking behind my back, and sharing sarcastic jokes or spreading rumors about me. It wasn't funny anymore. And it was time for me to heal all that I had forgotten on purpose. So, of course, what they all did wasn't right and it will never be right, but I let it go. And because I wanted to find peace within. So I took steps to free myself. And I'm going to share one of my methods that I have other methods, but I'm going to share this kind of method I use for emotional and spiritual healing I provide. And I want to share my steps with our viewers so they can understand how I work if you're ready to start your healing journey. So what I did as a first step, I sat down and had moments of grief, cried for the people I loved so much, and they abandoned me, hurt me, stabbed, and closed the door to me. But then I realized I wasn't alone, and many others were open to loving me. So I wrote a letter to all these people without sending it, wishing them well and expressing how they made me feel. And I removed myself from this trigger event because I didn't want to associate with this anymore. I realized I was not who they thought I was, but I was more significant than they could ever imagine. So I read the letter once, and then I did a specific ritual by burning the letter and wishing them well. And then I sat down with my journal and wrote my new empowering thoughts about this event and how I wanted to be treated from now on, and meditated after to manifest all that I wanted to receive. And in the last step, I celebrated the new me and the beautiful, evolving soul I was becoming. So healing is essential to move forward in life, and there is needed support if you ever are ready to start your healing journey. So I'm going to go back to my guests because they're going to share their healing journey and their trigger event and how they healed and faced it. And Nicole, do you want to start?
Sure, Elena. So a trigger event that kept, and it was a recurring one with me. It kept coming up, and I hadn't realized at all that I was being triggered from something from my past. So it was really intense and interesting discovery. So I work quite long hours, and my husband works quite long hours, and we have 2 little boys. And he came home one day, and at 11 o'clock at night, and he decided he wanted to bake a cake for the boys to have for breakfast in the morning. And he opens up a cupboard, and he's got the milk in the mixer and the eggs are in the mixer, and he opens up the cupboard to get the flour, and the flour is not there. And so he calls me and he says, "Where's the flour? Why don't we have any flour?" And I go, "Well, I don't know. I don't bake with the flour. I don't do anything with the flour. So I don't know. You must have finished it." And he said, "Well, why haven't you replaced it? Why don't you notice when things are missing in the house? You are not a good housewife." And that really triggered me, that I wasn't good enough. And I was really, really triggered. And I just flared up in that moment. And I reacted, and I reacted with anger because I was on the defensive. And I started saying, I am fine and there's nothing wrong with me and it's your responsibility. And, a good housewife doesn't just be the one that's cooking and cleaning. And if I'm not good enough for you, then you can go and find yourself a wife that can do all of that. And then he got angry with me and I got angry back at him. And then we didn't talk to each other for a week. And I calmed down, and, after the week, and slowly, we began to talk to each other. And not even a month goes by, and he comes home again wanting to make a cake for the boys. 11 o'clock at night, and he opens the fridge, and we've got no milk. And he goes again, and he gets angry, and he starts shouting at me, and the same scene plays out again. And I thought, I can't believe this. Now we're not talking to each other. And that's the worst for me, because I don't want the boys to be in an environment where the parents aren't talking. And so I really hate that. And I want love and peace and harmony around me. So I sat down. I thought, something has to change. Something's not going right here. He's not getting the message that he has to be responsible for some things. And I'm not getting whatever message he wants me to get. And so I sat down, as you know, I do the tapping, and I sat down and I tapped and I breathed. But the main thing was realizing that this was kept occurring and that this was my response. And I needed a new response, because my response to him wasn't getting me to this peaceful, harmonious family life that I really, really wanted. So I thought, what could I do that I could give a different response? How can I break the cycle? And I realized then that this is coming from childhood, where I felt like I was the black sheep of the family. I have a beautiful sister. She's absolutely amazing. And everyone would always tell me that, why can't you be more like your sister? And that really, really, used to upset me. And I thought, well, I'm not, I'm me. Don't you love me for me? Can't you see anything good in me? And then here again, why can't you be like a good housewife? Wow. that was really like, sure, I really have to, this is not because he's angry with me about milk or whatever, that this is really coming from childhood and it's time to break this now. So I decided that my new response would be to him, how can I help you? That I was going to show up as helpful. So of course I wrote it down. Elena, you'll be happy and proud of me. I was journaling. I wrote it down and I said, this is what's happening. This has been my response and this is going to be my new response. And so not long goes by. There he is again, wanting to make a cake. And guess what? No eggs this time. So 11 o'clock at night again. And he starts, you know, the same story because now we know the story so well. And so we both just, you know, he escalates to anger right away. And I said to him, I said, oh my gosh, we don't have eggs. And he said, no, why don't we have eggs? Why can't you go to the supermarket? Why don't you take care of these things? And da, 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 da. And I go, you're so right. I said, but you know what? The mini market is open. So I'm going to pop down the road right now and get you eggs. He just stopped. He said, what are you talking about? I said, no, really. He said, but you're in your pajamas. I said, it's winter. I'll just put on a big coat and off I'll go. And I start moving towards the door. And he says, but you haven't got your shoes on. I said, I'll just put my boots on. It won't take me 2 seconds. Start the cake and I'm bringing the eggs. And he said, but I'm dressed. And I said, you are, and you've had a long day at work and you're tired. And this is such a beautiful thing that after this long day at work, you're going to make a cake for the boys. I said, that is so wonderful. Sit down, take your shoes off. I'll be back in a second. And he said, no, doesn't make any sense. I'll go and get the eggs. And off he went. He got the eggs. We had a beautiful breakfast of cake that morning. And it was absolutely amazing. Such a different, because I changed my response. He was able to calm down and he felt supported because that was the message, is that here I am, I'm worked, I'm tired, and you're not supporting me. So sometimes we've got to see like the hidden messages, what's going on around us. But yeah, tuning into our old triggers and coming up with a new response to move past them.
Very good, Nicole. I love it. Now, does he have the same response or it's okay now?
You know, funny enough, there's always just eggs and flour and stuff in the house.
You see, because you changed this the story, you changed the story now. Everything is in yeah. You needed to face
Everything
it.
was always available. It's like the universe was saying, address this issue. And it kept taking something out the house that we needed.
Exactly. And if we don't face it, it's going to continue coming back to haunt us until it's finished.
Yeah. And, you know, I can't even remember the last time. I mean, this was always an old line of his, that you're not a good housewife. And it always used to like immediately. I hated the meaning behind that. Like, I'm a good person and I don't have to prove anything else to you. So he hasn't even mentioned that now, and it's been about 2 years since then. So
you see,
yes,
you needed to face also your trauma that you had endured in childhood. So
in childhood of this,
and your husband also at once. So this wasn't for both of you to heal. This
definitely
and move forward. That's good. So Patricia, can you share an example of a trigger event that happened to you?
Good for nothing, and she's not worthy. Her place is in the house to take care of the children she's given birth to for almost nothing, and for the man to go out and live his life, flirt around with women, and even bring some to the house, and they are being fed by my mother and all of that. And that is how I saw the world. That is the way I saw marriage, for example. And I made up my mind. All of that made me, you know, it hardened me up. And I made up my mind that I would never get married. And in a letter to my mother's brother, my mother, they're just 3 of them. She had 2 brothers. Whose letter to my mother's senior brother, who at the time was a minister in the country and very well to do. And I gave my mother to do everything for that letter to reach her brother. I didn't tell him to have been driven to our home with a bodyguard and a driver, you know, had so much, you know, had so much impact in my life. And I remember he came home that day, that morning, who came and gave my mother an envelope of 100,000 francs. And he told me in front of my parents, my dad had not yet gone to work. He told me and promised me that in his entire life, because he started off as a stealer, he could not sleep. And that is how he took off and promised that he would take me through school, that he would be responsible for my education up to what level I want to end. It was a great relief for me. And what was my dad's conclusion? I always knew, you're not my daughter. Your mother has to tell me who gave birth to you and all of that and all of that. That was all, you know, the same story we had always been hearing and all of that. My mother got beaten, the money snatched from her, and he went and drank, you know, spent the money in drinking and coming back home to insult my mother. At the end of the day, the school fee wasn't even paid, and I had to go again to, that is his own brother, that's paternal uncle now, to plead for him to pay for my fees because my mother was in tears. She didn't even know how to tell the brother that that money was taken from her by the husband, whom the whole family had said she should quit the marriage. The marriage is not worth it, but she chose to stay. It was a whole drama. So you can imagine the difficult childhood upbringing and all of that. And that's how he finally asked me to go live in his own house all by myself, and that he would do everything to make means for me to be able to feed and have a means of sustaining. Very good health is even one of the reasons why I even finally got married. And
oh, good.
I got a surprising phone call, and I picked it, and they told me, your uncle, your dad is no more. I almost dropped dead. To me, my life, and because of that, I realized I got into severe depression because I just kept crying and crying.
Do you want to share your closing message?
Sure, Elena. I'd just like to say that, you know, when things happen, shootings and everything else, and she took the steps though to protect herself and to remove herself from that situation and just not watch the TV. She, you know, there's so many different ways that we can look at the triggers that are happening. And it's important for everyone to realize that the triggers, in a way, they have a gift for us, that it's a blessing in disguise, because it's then showing us that, look, here, there's this little part of you and this happened to you, and recognize that, you know, like acknowledge what happened to you, and then you can help to heal it and help to move on from it. So yeah, just to view these, it's difficult, but to view them as little gifts, little presents for you to be able to open them up and see what's in it and move on from that.
It's like a pathway in remembering again, because when we're traumatized, our mind is closed and we don't want to think about it. We don't want to face our pain and our shame. So it's like a pathway for us to remember and to move forward. Patricia, do you want to share a closing message, and we will close up this episode?
Everything changed for her. So we need to be like GEORGIOU, for example, who would walk into an event and they give her just 3 minutes for a presentation, and the energy, the positive energy that she is carrying along, just that alone, you know, would impact the environment in such a positive way that everybody would be like the glowing, the smiling, the laughing because of what she carries. So I want to say we should be the change we want to see in others.
Sometimes I am the miracle, I am the blessing, because that's what we are. We are a miracle. And every day we wake up is a new day for us to start over. So thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you very much, Patricia, for being here with me. And I want to say thank you to our viewers for watching us, and see you in another edition.